Hi, I'm Amy, and this is A-Star Reads, and it is finally time for the finale of my children's picture book battle. So welcome. I'm really excited you're here. I cannot wait to talk about these books, but I'll tell you something. I'm not going to talk too much about them because I did talk about these books in depth in my original videos that I did. This is a series I started a while back when I was taking a children's literacy course, and we had to read a bunch of picture books because I'm becoming a teacher and I had not really experienced reading picture books in this way. So it was a really fun opportunity for me to take this form of literature, which nowadays, especially because I'm an adult, I don't pick up very often or I don't think very deeply about. And because I was looking at it from a perspective of trying to teach it to little children and trying to help them with their literacy, it was really interesting to think about these different books and see what authors are coming up with, see what I liked. And there were so many books on here that I absolutely loved, but each episode that I did, I talked about 8 different books and then I ranked those books. And so all of those videos, and I actually had 7 of them, I had a number 1 book. Of the 8 that I had read that week, I picked 1 book that I thought was my favorite. And what I thought I would do for a finale is take those 7 number 1 books and rank those and see what book I loved the most of all the books I read during this time. And you gotta bear with me because that was super hard. And on any given day, this ranking could change because these were my favorite books of all the books I read. I wanted to give a bit of a caveat there because I don't want you to think like, oh, that was her 7th place book, but that's a really good book. Yes, they're all very good books. So I just thought it would be fun to rank them. It wasn't that fun. It was kind of hard, actually. And I should also point out that although I was looking at these books for content and trying to understand how children would receive them and what I think the value they have for children who are learning literacy or just like to read, like what this would give for children, I also really took a personal perspective on this too, because I wanted to just see what I thought of all these books that I was reading. And I spent enough time in my literacy class talking about the merits of these books for teaching to children. And some of these ones, I don't know if children would be as excited about them as I am. And that's a problem, but I won't really know until I start reading them to children and seeing what the children want to read, because there's a lot of books that I thought were cute and fun, but they weren't necessarily ones that I would consider my favorite books, but children would love them because they were goofy or silly. And so I just want to say that because I want you to know that this is my opinion, my feelings on these books, and there are people who are not going to agree, and that's okay because this is my little experiment that I wanted to try. So let's just get started. Like I said, I'm not going to go into too much depth about these, but I will tell you basically why I loved it and why maybe it's not my favorite in this particular ranking. For my 7th place position book, I'm gonna pick Eyes That Kiss in the Corners by Joanna Ho and illustrated by Dong Ho. This is a beautiful book and the illustrations are gorgeous, but I felt like there were some parts of this that children might not be able to grasp as well as adults would. So it has amazing descriptions. Are some of them a little more complex? Yes, that might actually be a good thing with older kids because you could talk about some of those things that seem a little more complex. And it's also nice that we have a bit of the heritage and culture in here so that you can start talking about those things with your students. The illustrations are just gorgeous. They're really, really pretty. It is a lot more lyrical in the way that it's written. I think that that's stunning. I really appreciate these types of books because I feel like students hear a lot about the prejudice that goes around about different cultures and different races and whatnot. But this one actually never, not once, has this young girl feeling bad about the way she looks or questioning why nobody else looks like her. It just focuses on what makes her special and unique and how that relates to her culture, her heritage, and her family. And so I really love that. I love books that have that more positive spin because I think it's important, of course, to look at different experiences in life and how people have much different experiences when it comes to the way they're perceived. But I also think it's really important to have really positive books that help children feel a lot more confident about themselves, but don't necessarily point out all the negative things. Just kind of normalize the differences we all have. And I like that normalization. I think it's important to notice that we are very different. I think it's important to point that out and to learn more about each other. But it doesn't always have to be portrayed in a really negative way. I think this was really done well for that, and I could see this generating a lot of good conversation. Like I said, maybe it would work better for a slightly older group, but I think kids would really like the pictures no matter what, because there are some gorgeous, gorgeous illustrations in here. Book number 6, and this one pains me slightly to put it in 6th place because I really love this book, but it's gonna pain me to put any of these books lower than the 1st place position because they originally got 1st place, but oh well, what are you gonna do? And that is The Night Walk by Marie Dorleans, and this is a French, I think it's translated, I'm not sure unless she wrote it in English, but this is a French author who wrote this beautiful, gorgeous, artistic book. It's called The Night Walk because it is literally what this family is doing. They're going on a night walk. The way that the art portrays the nighttime and all the things that you can see or can't see in the night. You can hear the sounds, you can smell the sounds of the nighttime. So it is very sense forward, and I really liked that. I really liked that you're using this to kind of understand what the night is like and what this experience for these children is like, going with this walk with their family. And I think that I love this one so much because, for one, I think when you're doing a read aloud, this is a great whole book discussion, like where you would talk about the art, where you would talk about the decisions that the author makes. And I think it's important to stress that it is very appropriate to talk to your kids or your students about aspects of the story that don't just include reading the story to them, like talking about why did the author choose to make the end pages look like this? Like, what does that tell you about the book? Or tell me something about the art. Or, and talking about the author and the illustrator, like using those kind of words. And there's books like this that I think lend to that very well. Gets kids thinking about not just the story, but the whole book, the book as a whole, and the process of making books. And then they can start making their own books, and they feel less intimidated in doing that because they have so much more knowledge about what goes into a book. Aside from that long tangent, I love this book because it reminds me of what it feels like to be on a night walk. Okay, and the book in the 5th place position, and this is another one where I'm like, oh, I don't like having to put this in the 5th place. It's just the way it worked out. And that is The Day Saida Arrived. And I may regret this later where I place this one because I really love this book. I really love this book. And this is by Susana Gomez Redondo with Sonia Wimmer as the illustrator. I think the illustrations in this one are probably the most beautiful illustrations, except for maybe one other. They're just so stunning and so creative. One of the ones I really like is this one, where you see, like, it's so whimsical and so much fun. And he's like writing on the board and she's trying to find Saida's voice. And this story is about this young girl who has a new student in her class named Saida, and Saida doesn't speak English. And this is about their experience of getting to know each other and becoming friends. And I would like to point out that this is not a one-way type of story. This girl is trying to teach Saida English, but Saida is trying to teach her Arabic. And so it really does go both ways. These children are really trying to understand a lot about each other and each other's language. And this is a book all about language, all about exploring language. And what I think is super cool about this book is almost on every page, there are words that are in English, Arabic, and then like a phonetic Arabic sort of writing. And so you've got like sun on here, shams, and then the actual Arabic writing. You've got this alphabet for English and this Arabic alphabet. And I really loved how much that was incorporated into the book. I just think it's so fun for children to kind of look at and try to sound out some of these words and get to know a different language, and also get to know something about a different culture, because this girl's trying to get to know all about Saida, and Saida's trying to get to know all about her and her new home. All right, so the next book is Prince and Knight by Daniel Haack, and the illustrations are by Stevie Lewis. And this is a modern fairy tale about a prince and a knight, and it's so cute. The artwork in this is so much fun. Look at this dragon. I really love that this is patterned as a classic fairy tale, but with a modern twist, because you've got the prince and his knight, as opposed to prince and princess. And it's just really well done. It's very sweet, it's very simple. There isn't any point when these two characters meet resistance from the community, from their parents, because they're queer. And so I really appreciate that conversation. I appreciate that it's done in a way that is so positive. It kind of goes back to this book. I do like really positive depictions of these diverse relationships and diverse people and culture, and done in a way that's positive, because I feel like I've read that story where it has the bullying, and I think that those are important stories too, but I really appreciate that more authors are coming out with books like this, where we're normalizing these stories, but with different people in the place of our classic heroines. So yeah, this one's a really cute one. It's really fun and it's really sweet. Oh my gosh, okay, we're getting down to my top 3. So for my 3rd place position, this is a book that I absolutely loved. The illustrations in this one, I mean, I keep talking about the illustrations in these books, but the reality is I loved everything about these books. And so the illustrations obviously are gonna be amazing. And so this one is Sulwe by Lupita Nyong'o, and this was illustrated by Vashti Harrison. I've seen quite a few children's picture books illustrated by Vashti Harrison, but I don't think I've actually read any of Vashti Harrison's actual books, so I need to get on that. But this is about this young girl named Sulwe, and Sulwe means star, and she has very dark skin complexion. And in her family, everyone has lighter skin tone shades than she does. So like her mother, her dad, and her sister are all lighter skinned than she is. And at school, she has been called names that aren't flattering when it comes to her skin tone, and her sister gets called much more flattering names because her skin is so light. Poor Sulwe has just struggled with this, and she is very low in confidence, and she's done some pretty extreme things to try and change how her skin tone is, because she just wants to be more like the rest of her family, and she just wants to feel like she's pretty, like she's beautiful. There's a lot that has to do with not feeling good about yourself in this book. What I really liked about this was the storytelling element to this, and I think I really loved that the message in this wasn't to try to change other people's perception of you or worry about what other people think. It was to find a way to feel beautiful about yourself on the inside and to love who you are and care who you are so much that you don't care what other people think. I love that message for children. I think it's really hard to get that level of resilience as a child. And so any opportunities that they have to start building it from a very young age, I think that's awesome. And this is actually based on Lupita Nyong'o's real story. She's obviously a very famous actress, and I think she's a model too. She's had a very similar experience to our character Sulwe. And so it was nice to just get that connection between this person we see as considered a very gorgeous person within the entertainment industry who felt that they weren't, and how she dealt with that as a person. I would just have a lot of fun talking to kids about the artwork and what different things they see within the artwork, and it's just so pretty. And I just think this book was really lovely and really well done. So that's my number 3 choice. Okay, book number 2. This book continues every time I read it to surprise me. And I would be curious to see how much children would react to this book. I think that this is a great book for older children. I mean, I think younger children could appreciate aspects of it, but I think this is a really good book when talking about Black Lives Matter and different elements of like the civil rights movement and Jim Crow era. This also is very useful for talking about famous figures within the Black community and how they have contributed to the history of the United States, and being sort of a jumping off point for bigger conversations that can be had. So that is The Undefeated by Kwame Alexander, and it was illustrated by Kadir Nelson. This book, gosh, I keep saying this, the illustrations are so stunning. They are though, they're really gorgeous. Kadir Nelson did an amazing job. I mean, look at this art. It is so beautiful, and it depicts so many amazing famous characters. So there are some really bleak parts of this book, and I think that that is really important because there are elements to the history, many elements to the history, that is very bleak. I think it's important to point that out and not try to hide from it, because that's how we learn from our history and some of the things that this country has done in the past. I do think that Kwame Alexander did a great job of representing it, letting you see the horrible impact that that has had, but not in a way that feels hopeless. There's no element of this that feels hopeless, and I appreciate that, because I think it's important when you're writing a story for children to show the realities of things, realities of history, especially if it's a nonfiction book or based in nonfiction, but to show children that we can be better than this, or we can overcome, or we can be undefeated. Where is the hope when it comes to these kinds of difficult stories that have to be relayed? And this does an amazing job of it. And the poetry is gorgeous. This is a completely lyrical book. And what I really like about it is in the back, there's like this afterword that Kwame Alexander wrote, but you've got the historical figures and events featured in Undefeated. And so each section, like they highlight that this is for the unforgettable. There are actually quotes and stuff used in the poetry that he references back here, and it does reference to either a musician or a sports person or something along those lines. That's why I think this would be a great book for older kids, because this really would be a wonderful way to start that conversation and then get them thinking about these individual characters throughout history, and then they can go into more depth about these people. I love this book. I think it's beautiful, and every single time I read it, I still feel that same level of just, it feels very empowering to read this book. And for my number one book, the very best book, okay, the book at the moment that I can say I enjoyed the most out of all the books, drumroll, The Little Wooden Robot and the Log Princess by Tom Gauld. Okay, I just love this book. I love this book so much. I can also see this being a book that children will love. So this is probably the book of all the books I've talked about that I know when I present this book to children, they will absolutely love it. Some of the other ones, I might have to find a specific group of children that will enjoy it more than others. Or it might be more of a one-on-one type of book where they prefer reading it on their own. This one, I think, will be an amazing book that most of my students will love. And I love it. So I would be excited to read this over and over and over again. This is another modern fairy tale. I really like these modern fairy tales. What is true of a fairy tale story? Typically, there's some kind of moral that's interwoven into the story, but I feel like these are more modern. I think it's important because we should see what children want to read, what they're interested in learning about. And also, it's important to look at like where life is at the moment. How would a book like this appeal to a child nowadays versus maybe 50, 100 years ago? And this one's super fun because the illustrations have a lot of details in them. And what I like about those is that you can read this book over and over and over again and see new things every single time. I also think that there are elements of the story that make it feel sort of traditional, but then you've also got a mixed race couple of the king and queen. You've also got like a female engineer that works for the castle. And so you're seeing some diverse perspectives in these classic characters that would be in these types of stories. It's just so cute. And the experiences of our little log princess and our little wooden robot, watching them go through their little adventure. It's adorable. It's adorable. And I just love this book. And I think it's so cute. And if you haven't read it to your child, I recommend doing so right now. Go pick it up. All right, so that's it. Those are my top 7 children's picture books of all the ones I have read recently. I really love those 7. And let me tell you, even as I was going over their ranking, I think I would have changed things. It was really hard for me to figure this out. Let me know in the comment section down below, have you read any of these children's picture books? Did you enjoy them? Did you think differently than I do? Because I'm sure you will. I'm sure that there are children's picture books out there that I have loved that maybe kids won't love, or that you won't love, and that's okay. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And also, if there's other books that you have absolutely loved, I did get quite a few recommendations while I was doing this project, but I would love to know more because I'm gonna be cultivating a library within my classrooms. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see what happens now going forward. I probably won't do too many more videos on picture books. This was my project that I was doing because I was taking that particular class and I had a lot of fun doing it. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.